Well, they're just a great all-around team, and their speed is enormous, as fast as any team we faced, no doubt about that. And so you take bits and pieces from other games that you've had, you know, like with Michigan and Iowa, people like that you try to make a comparison. Okay, we're going to pick up here. They're like Iowa here, they're like Michigan there, but at the end of the day, their speed. And the only one that really has an idea on that would be, well, Josh does, because he played at Pittsburgh. He doesn't get to play with us, is Yogi, because he's played against it. And it's been a long time, right? So we've got to do a great job of understanding how important transition is. We've got to do a great job of understanding how important it is to rebound in transition, because they do a great job of that. And they run sets, but it's not just the sets, it's how good their players are. And I think the thing that's really outstanding about their half-court offense is how well they pass the ball. So not only can everybody score, but they can really pass. And you got to be sharp. You got to be very active with your hands, and our footwork's got to be great. And then one of their absolute strengths that always is there for them, and it's no different this year, is the way they offensive rebound the ball. Defensively, we've got to be able to deal with the change of defenses. You know, whether it's man or zone, whether it's the traps and the running jumps and different things that they do. And we just got to make great decisions. And obviously we want to run, we want to play, but we got to make great decisions in that, because they capitalize on turnovers. And we've got to make sure that our recognition of numbers on the break versus do we want to keep going and get the ball reversed a couple times, get into a half-court offense, we've got to do a great job with all of that. And probably the thing that they have as much as anybody in the country, and I don't know all the teams inside out like this, but I would say their depth is outstanding. You know, with how many forwards they can go to on the bench, the way they can get into the bench with the guards. So they just keep coming at you. I mean, there's a reason that they're so good in the second half, and they thrive on that. And so everybody's getting better on their team. I mean, Barry, I think sometimes people forget about him. All he is the MVP of the ACC tournament. They're 28-2 when he scores in double figures. They keep bringing a wave of guys at you. So we've got to do a great job of just, like I said, recognition on our offensive end, you know, ball movement and spacing, and then defensively we've got to do a fantastic job of getting back and trying to slow that breakdown.
Tom, you've talked about Nick's defensive improvement recently, and really the last couple of weeks, how he's had these bigger time, you know, pro-level matchups. But maybe more specifically, where have you seen him maybe grow the most ever since Rob went out? He's kind of had the precedent of these minutes.
Well, I think he watches more film, so I think he's more in depth there, even with what we're showing. We're just coming off a long session now, but he watches his own film and he talks the game, but he's getting more athletic. I think that's one of the great things about the development of our guys and what we're doing at Indiana is they keep getting stronger and more athletic during the year. And that's a tribute to Lionel and Steven and the way they rehab and the stuff that they do to get restoration. And we're constantly trying to not only coach a basketball practice, but coach a very athletic practice and make sure that we're getting more and more athletic, you know, all the time with our movements and footwork and all that type of stuff. And so I think that helps, but I think he's gained confidence. And he knows that the matchups he has are absolutely crucial. But at the same time, it's not as much the matchup as it is just being in position to switch, help, guard your man, block out, do those type of things.
When you were recruiting him, you mentioned you saw maybe one or two things that he could get even better at when he got to IU. Was defense realistically one of those things?
Well, it was going to have to be. You know, there was no question it was going to have to be for him to be a successful player for us. But we wouldn't have taken him if we didn't think there was an upside to his defense. And do I think I think it's gotten even better than what I could have imagined. But I think, again, he's also a product of a connected defense. You know, when there's good help behind him and guys are talking, I think that gives him even more courage to be the defender that he needs to be. But he's made tremendous strides. I mean, there's no doubt about it. He's gotten better at so many different things. And putting the ball on the floor and reading situations. And his shot fake now is getting even better. His footwork is constantly improving. And he's a threat to make a shot as soon as he crosses half court.
Thomas has had the 2 quick fouls in each of the last 2 games. Against this kind of an opponent, is it even more important to find a way to keep him on the court?
Well, it is. But the more we talk about don't foul, the easier it is to foul. We're again, so much about athletic movement, so much about this is gonna be a very big personnel game, for us, as most are. And they're used to that, they're used to having an understanding of what they've gotta try to take away. And these guys are very, very quick, in the post. They're quick with their moves to the middle, they're quick with their baseline moves. So you gotta do your work early. And if you're out of position, and the key to any successful defensive endeavor is multiple efforts, right? So you may have to help on the ball, and then you gotta recover to your man, or you may have to, be in a help position, and all of a sudden your man ducks in, and he didn't get it, and now he moves out to the perimeter. You can't stand up and rest. And to me, the other day, Thomas's first foul made no sense to me. I mean, it just didn't. And I'm not sure his second one did either. But we've dealt with that this year. And the thing that I'm happy about in that game is that we got him back for a few more minutes in the first half. And he didn't do a lot, but at least he got his confidence there. And like we said at halftime, we're up one, and Thomas hasn't even hardly played, right? So I felt good. Felt like there'd be more of an opportunity. He's entering the second half with 2 fouls. So, we don't look at the glass as half empty if he gets a couple fouls. And it'd be very easy to do that. We got to figure out what we need to do next. And whether it's changing defenses or putting him on a different man, which we've done, those type of things. So we just read the game as it goes. This gentleman right here, I missed him, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Obviously, you've been to the second weekend and beyond in the NCAA tournament, but only Yogi and Max have played this far into the season. How do you get a team prepared for playing on this big of a stage for the first time?
I don't think you do anything different than what you've done. I mean, this was the most watched game of the year this past Saturday. Being in our meeting room, you couldn't have told that. I wouldn't have been able to tell that. And I think they're projecting this to be maybe the most watched Sweet 16 game ever. Talking to some of the people that know those numbers. I don't think you get caught up in that. I mean, the whole bottom line, if you spend too much time thinking about the stage you're on, or thinking about where you're at, and thinking about who's watching, you get away then from what's most important, which is to stop that team, and you lose your concentration on individual player characteristics. You get distracted on something. I mean, they're young people. I mean, it's not like we can put them in a box or a cocoon and say you're not in the Sweet 16. They've earned it. But the bottom line is there's a seriousness about this group. And we had a very hard, challenging practice today. And that's, we've got to play with a real edge. And it's not about overworking or wearing guys down, but it's about having a real concentrated edge. And knowing that against especially a team like Carolina, of all the teams that are in that tournament right now, they're the ones that thrive on the 40-minute game the most because of the way they beat people in the second half. Well, we've done the same thing. And we've got to be really good at that. So we stay focused on the things that we can control the best, prepare for the things that the non-obvious with situation basketball, because that's something that North Carolina has been great at since Coach Smith was there. And certainly Roy's no different. So we've got to do a great job with that. There's plenty enough things for us to focus on that we don't have to think about the hype of the game. Exactly.
Speaking specifically about kind of where guys are physically, you sounded optimistic this weekend about Juwan and Robert. I guess where are they in terms of being ready, and how much is even maybe just one extra day at this time of year playing the Friday game instead of the Thursday game?
I like the Friday game because they get to watch the Thursday games. One of the toughest things in the tournament is when you're the first game on Thursday. It's just hard because they don't get a feel for the tournament. So now they've had the first weekend, and they've got a chance to watch it on Thursday. Robert is iffy, and it's going to be, we're just going to have to see. And Juwan is getting better, and he added some stitches to his head today in practice, so he was out there. That poor guy. But we just have to wait and see how it goes. We've been dealing with different injuries, as you know, and it's very hard to predict the timeline of it, and we just leave it in the hands of the doctors and the rehabilitation part of it, and whatever happens, we'll adjust to.
What are the biggest challenges with a guy like Bryce, who is...
You interrupted Mike, You didn't see it. You got to get your head on a swivel, man.
Sorry, Mike, go ahead.
Go ahead, no, I'm going. Go ahead, Jeff.
Just with a guy like Bryce who has that skill and is that...
Oh, you're on a first-name basis with him? No, go ahead, I'm just joking. Go ahead.
When you have a guy who is 6'10" and has that length and that skill level, what are the challenges to at least slowing him down?
Well, he's got 20 double-doubles, so that grabs your attention real quick. And he plays with tremendous energy. And so we've got to move him. There's no question about it. I mean, if you just let him play position defense and be on his man but get ready to block the shot, and can stand there and don't challenge him on the boards, then he keeps getting those double doubles. But we've got to make him move up. He's no different than any of the other guys on their team in the sense that we can't just let them stand there and not have to do multiple things. And because he's so talented that he can come out, he can be out of position and recover so quick because of that, right? He's got a little Anthony Davis in him. He's not quite as big, and he's a little different player, but those guys is like all of a sudden, there they are, right? And they weren't in position, and now they're there. And that's what he brings to the table that I think is so good. So, but again, everybody Roy puts on the floor can make plays. But there's very few guys that can stuff a stat sheet like Bryce Johnson can, and we've got to do a great job of trying to negate that as much as possible. Go ahead, Mike.
Why do you think this team was able to make the big jump that it has defensively from where you were early in the season to where you are now?
Fundamentals, intent, survival. I mean, they knew we weren't going to be good without it, right? But they just kept getting closer and closer as a group, and I think that builds a connectedness. And I think the other thing is they knew that we weren't going to be, that they like to run, right? They like the fast break, they like to get out and play. You can't do that by just trading baskets or taking the ball out of the net every time. And so I think they knew that too. And when our defense was suffering early on, our offense was the main, that was the one being most affected. I mean, we were giving up baskets, but we weren't nearly good enough at getting back down the court to score easy baskets, and we weren't pushing the ball. And I think defensive energy creates so much offensive energy. And it not only just creates stops that get you out on the break and things like that, but when you're really going at it defensively, it's really hard to slow down offensively. You know, you want to be after it. And I think they like that, but they've kept getting better. And our coaches, Coach Judson, Tim Buckley, Chuck Martin, those guys have done a fantastic job. And this is as good a staff as any in the country when it comes to teaching. I'd put them up with anybody. And I knew we were going to miss Steve McLean, right? Because Steve is as good a teacher as I've ever been with. And to have Rob be able to come in and do what he's done in a full-time role like that with the experience that he's got, these guys deserve so much credit. You know, everybody deserves it. I mean, with what they do in the training, what Lionel and Steven do, what Marty Mooney does academically. There are no weak links, all right, in this program. There's nowhere that you look at and say, okay, we got to shore this up. You want to make it better every day, but it's not like you got to shore it up and say this isn't good enough. And the teaching that we're getting from our coaches is phenomenal.
Can you
Go
talk
ahead,
about?
Jimmy. Go ahead, I'm sorry, go ahead.
With Yogi and Marcus Page, is there some similarities with both teams having that senior point guard?
Oh, probably, yeah, but it was like the Ulyss. It's not about matchups as much as it's about tendencies, right? Like what do they want to do? And he's a tremendously quick shooter, big veteran, very quick, very good on the ball defender, runs his team, plays with great speed, change of direction is really good. So it's really, because of the way we play, it's not so much about Yogi and Marcus Page, it's about what does Marcus Page do really well that we got to take away. When it comes to the question of leadership, I don't know the inner workings of their team. It's obviously they're pretty well led, and I think it's obvious that we're pretty well led. So, but Yogi's done such a great job of not only working with his teammates, making everybody listens to his teammates, and there's a real there's a real communication on our team. And I think one of the great things about our team is there's not a talk at communication with each other, which can happen sometimes. And you want that sometimes. You want guys to be demanding. We want Yogi to be demanding at times. But there's a talk to. And very importantly, there's a talk with. And when your seniors can have a talk with and a talk to, you've got a really good thing going. And that's what we have. If it's just talk at, you're not going to get as much 50-50 conversation. You're not going to get as much feedback. But when it's talk to and with, which is what we've really developed into since probably, that happened. That really started to happen probably once we got into the Big Ten, where that really took off. And it's just continued to manifest itself. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Piggybacking off the leadership thing, though, you talk about with Max in terms of, I mean, here's a guy that's been to the Sweet 16 a few times. How much does it help having a guy like that?
Oh, very much so, but I think what helps most importantly is his communication with the team about what teams are trying to do. And I constantly reminded him he's got a much different role now, right, and than he's had in the past. And it's important that he keeps speaking that role and he keep playing that role. And he's still getting coached as hard today as he got coached when he first got here, you know, because again, this whole thing has been built on how much better these guys can get. And this week doesn't do us any good if we don't get better. And better can be very minute, better can be a broader range, but the bottom line is we've got to play with simplicity, we've got to play with details and fundamentals. And the more that Max is doing that, and the more that he's getting that across to his teammates, that's the stuff that gets you ready for the games. Because to me, Max is a pretty even-keeled guy, you know, but I haven't seen a real difference in Max. He's got a great poise about him, and he's got a presence about him. Even when we went to Michigan the first time, I didn't sense, I was looking for it, right? I didn't sense anything different, anything. And he, 1,000 things had to go through his head, right? But I never saw that. You know, the even keel that he plays with has been a huge, huge part of his success with us, and has been a huge part of his leadership with us. And he responds to coaching because he knows he's gotten better. He knows his footwork is completely changed, you know, which has enabled him to be the shooter that he is. And he knows he's got a huge role with us. And with those expectations, you know, comes a lot of responsibility for not only yourself, but with your teammates. And he's done that.
With Juwan, you know, he goes out there and knowing that his shoulder, you know, is in this AIDS. And did you see this kind of toughness in him when you recruited him?
Well, I didn't see him get hurt like that. And I didn't know how much he got hurt actually in high school, because he got hurt a lot, you know, with the shoulder. But yeah, I think that's a big deal. You know, I've coached in the past for some guys, they didn't want to get out of the game, right? And they'd be cleared to play, they didn't want to get out of the game. In this kid, you can't keep him out. So we'll go to battle with him. I mean, he is and he just keeps getting better and better. And when you look at the development he's made, and for it to be, you know, the scary thing the other day is when Rob went down and it became clear that he wasn't going to be able to come back in, is, well, there's our other point guard right there. If we're going to get Yogi up along with Harrison and Jawan, because they came out in a real attack mode and fully expect Carolina will do the same thing, but Jawan can handle that. And then we lost him. That was the time when we got a little nervous because, you know, he does so many things for us. And he's an inbounder. I mean, he just wears a lot of different hats. And the bottom line, this time of year, it's like any other time of year, but you've got to have numerous guys that can that can fulfill those different roles. Taking the ball out of bounds is a huge role. Coming out of a timeout and understanding how to get the screen set is a huge role. Well, handling the ball against pressure is a huge role. So not only is he doing things that are big as a freshman, but he's doing them and he's not even close to 100% healthy. So he's got a great level of toughness, and he's an absolute joy to coach. And it's not us, it's his parents. I mean, the way his parents have raised him. And, you know, our job is to do a great job of building onto what they do. All right? But it'd be crazy to sit up here and act like we've changed these guys. All we're trying to do is expand and enhance him. I mean, he's a great young man coming from a great family, as is all our guys. And these freshmen have absolutely been that way.
Coach, that's all the time.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Sean.